Let's talk about the New York Giants mock draft at Pro Football Network. Now, one of the questions that I have for you here, there's been some uncertainty about quarterback. We've been told Daniel Jones is going to be the guy. He's going to get every opportunity to be the guy. They go and they get Tyrod Taylor as the backup. And then there's also some questions as to, are they going to look at a quarterback in this year's NFL draft? Well, in the latest mock draft that we've published at ProFootballNetwork.com, round 1, pick number 5, you have them taking Evan Neal, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Tell us a little bit more about this pick here.
Yeah, so I think first off, real quick, touching on quarterback, I would probably run this year with Daniel Jones just to see what you got because he really hasn't had a fair shake in his first few years. I mean, you can say that he hasn't lived up to expectations, which is true, but the offensive line has not been consistently solid around him. So that's why I picked Evan Neal with the first pick here. There are a few tackles that are options on the board. You got Evan Neal, Ikem Ekwonu, Charles Cross. They're all fan favorites. But I look at what the Giants need. What they need is a right tackle or someone who has right tackle capabilities. And for me, the only guy who has that, he actually started a right tackle in 2020 before moving to left tackle in 2021, was Evan Neal, right? So he has both. He can do both. You already have Andrew Thomas, who really took a step up last year. So I say get Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal in the same offensive line room. Evan Neal, we already know, the physical traits are well advertised. This guy is big, he is powerful, he is athletic, and he really upped his hand usage and balance this past year to the point where he's trending up. And I say put him on that right side and help Daniel Jones. I think that's the best thing you can do is help Daniel Jones, try and help him succeed this year. And if it doesn't pan out, then you have 2 tackles that you can help protect the next quarterback that comes along.
I think it makes a ton of sense because, quite honestly, like, you didn't bring in Brian Daboll all of a sudden just to move off of Daniel Jones. Like, you're hoping he can try to help Daniel Jones take the next step forward. And I think obviously protection is going to want to be one of the biggest things because Jones, whether it was interceptions or just fumbles just due to pressure, like if he could limit some of those things, like he's got some of those skills, but you're just hoping he needs to take the next step. Moving on, though, it doesn't take long because only like 2 picks later, one pick from the Carolina Panthers sitting in between. The Giants are back on the clock here at pick number 7, and you've got them kind of reassuring the trenches again, but this time on the defensive side with the absolute guy that stole the show coming out of the combine, and that is with Jordan Davis, defensive tackle out of Georgia. Like we kind of talked about yesterday, if you get a defensive player out of Georgia, you're probably doing right. So how do you like this fit to pair up alongside with someone like a Leonard Williams on the defensive front for the New York Giants?
Yeah, and shout out to my guy Ali who wrote this one up, fellow draft analyst here. But I love this fit. I think with the Giants losing, you lost. What's the guy's name? I know they lost Austin Jones in free agency. They also lost, it was the Browns guy. He's the big Danny Shelton. It is. Yeah. I knew it was at the tip of my tongue, man. But they lost both those guys, so they do have a void at nose tackle. They like to move Dexter around, and as you mentioned, Leonard Williams. I think Jordan Davis can be a very good glue guy for the trenches. We talk about, the need for a 2-gapping presence, and I think this guy is the best one in this draft. You look at some of the plays that he had. It's not always the flashiest position, but if you can occupy 2 blockers, free up the 3 tech, allow them to make some plays one-on-one, that's always a valuable impact on a defense. And I think that Jordan Davis, not just with the size too, but I know Dalton tweeted this at some point when it was coming out, the combine results, crazy athleticism for his size. It doesn't always show up on tape, and the stamina too, but it seems like something that you can build on and work around. And like that athletic foundation, it's not for me to say that he can't become a pass rusher on his own, right? So I think that the tools are there, and already, even, in his current form, a very good 2-gapping presence who has who kind of the effect trickles down to the rest of your defense.
I like that word, trickle down effect here. Let's get to round 2, pick number 36. Some more help is coming for Daniel Jones on the interior of that offensive line there. You have them taking Kenyan Green. He's a guard out of Texas A&M. Now, I think that there's a lot of questions, especially with Will Hernandez kind of parting ways a little bit here with the New York Giants. In your opinion, why is this a pickup you have to take a look at here for the Giants here? Why does this make sense?
Yeah, well, it's not just tackle that needs to be addressed. It's the interior as well. I mean, I think even you could look at center. I mean, what they got there, John Feliciano, a veteran, right? But I do think, the long-term outlook is kind of iffy there. And then at guard, too. I mean, they signed Mark Lewinsky, again, a veteran who had some solid seasons for Indianapolis, but might be in the twilight of his career. And then on the other half, too, Shane Lemieux. He's had his flashes. He's a younger guy, but again, is he a guy that you can count on as a long-term starter, a guy who can keep Daniel Jones clean, especially at the guard position? The quickest path to the quarterback is from the interior, right? So interior defensive linemen, those pass rushers at 3 tech are becoming more and more popular for defensive coordinators because of that. When you get that interior pressure, you prevent the quarterback from stepping up, you disrupt his rhythm, and the play can collapse right there. So I think getting that presence set is very important. I look at Kenyan Green. His stock is falling a little bit because he didn't have the best combine performance, and also this past year wasn't the best tape of his, but I do think it was because he was moving around so much. They played him on the left side and the right side, at tackle, at guard. They moved him around a ton, and I think if you set him in at left or right guard, either one. I think left guard is the better fit for him, but you set him in right there, allow him to be comfortable, and he has the power. He's got the balance, man. This dude has crazy recovery athleticism. And then on top of that, he's a mean dude. He's got that mauler gene where he really blocks the end of the rep. I think that he could be a very good presence alongside Andrew Thomas, two physical guys with really good proportional length who can keep their quarterback clean.
Yeah, and kind of sticking with the exact same thing. We're kind of moving now to the third round. You got them done with another edge rusher, and I think this one's a really interesting one because, like, I think not a lot of people know exactly where he's going to play. And this is Majai Sanders, the edge rusher out of Cincinnati. Like, edge rusher is a loaded position in this draft. He measured in well at 6'5" and also ran the 4.67, but he weighed in a little low at 228, which I think is a little bit of a concern to some people. Do you kind of see him being able to put on a little more weight, maybe kind of moving him more into that traditional edge rusher? Or how do you see the New York Giants really trying to fit Majai Sanders into their defensive scheme?
Yeah, I think with the Giants, you're looking at the outside linebacker. Again, that's the role that they drafted Azeez Ojulari last year to fulfill. So I think on the other side, you got Majai Sanders fulfilling that. Weight management is an issue for him. We remember earlier, even before the season, Tony Pauline reported that he was in the teens in the 200s, right? So that's not good. But then he was up to around the 240s at the Senior Bowl, and then at his pro day, he was back up to 247. So he can put that weight on. It's just a matter of keeping that weight on. That's the problem for him. But when he has it on, and even with that weight, he's going to be a little undersized for the NFL game, but he plays bigger than his frame on tape. I mean, this is a guy who can set the edge with his arms, not the greatest length in the world, but he does play larger than his frame in that sense where he's disruptive. He's attacking. He has an attacking mentality with that. And we saw that at the Senior Bowl where this guy has the explosiveness. He's got the athleticism. He's got good bend capacity too. And especially when that tackle opens up his torso, the thing that I love about Sanders and a few other guys in this class too is that you can use that twitch and that lateral agility to kind of have tackles kind of, guessing where you're going to go, and they open up their torso. And then from there, you can use your arms to surge into the torso and kind of exert your power and drive them back with that unstable base. And I think Sanders can do that. He's got that multitasking ability around the edge. I think that a lot of the tools are here. The weight management is, I think, the biggest issue. But that athleticism, that playmaking ability, and that pass rushing upside is enough for me to say, get him on the other side with Ojulari and have them meet at the quarterback.
Well, the NFL and strength and conditioning programs, they will definitely find a way to get that weight on and to keep it on. They have access to so many new resources once they make it to the National Football League. But now let's take a look at another need here for this New York Giants team. Tight end. Obviously, the departure of Evan Ingram going to Jacksonville. The whole thing with Kyle Rudolph never worked out for them, unfortunately. So tight end's a little bit of an issue for them. Now they go in and they add Greg Dulcich, tight end out of UCLA, round 3, pick number 81. What do you like about his fit potentially in a Brian Daboll style of offense? I know everyone's going to try to compare a Brian Daboll offense now with him to how can he maybe be Dawson Knox here for Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I think that's I wouldn't say a comparison, but I do like the athleticism that he provides. It's something that Dawson Knox provides too. Daniel Jeremiah has him as his tight end 1. I'm not quite there. I like him in the middle rounds, but I do like him a lot at the tail end of round 3 with the athleticism that he has. Again, I think he's more of a seam guy, but up the seam, he's got that athleticism, enough speed where he can stretch that space, get into those open zones, and provide a size mismatch for safeties in the deep third. And then also in the intermediate range too, he's got enough separation ability. He's got the hip sync. I'd like him to use it a little bit more, but the potential is there for him to become a good separator. And then you look at the 34-inch arms, the long catch radius. I mean, this guy can extend. He can use his body to box out defensive backs. And then from there, he's a very good contested catch threat. So I think seam threat in the red zone, this guy has all the tools that you want for the Giants. And you look at their tight end room, it's pretty bare right now. Yep. I mean, they weren't going to bring Evan Ingram back. We know that. They cut Kyle Rudolph. It's really a good opportunity to start over. And I think that this tight end class doesn't have the top end talent, but it has the depth. So if you get a guy like Greg Dulcich on round 3, it could be a very good buy low opportunity, and he provides us some nice value.
I mean, I'm still riding the Trey McBride train. I still think he's the number 1 in this class.
He's probably tight end 1 at this point. I think he ran in the mid 4.5s today at his pro day. So that's a great time.
That's a thumbs up for me.
Yes, sir.
Looking out at the rest of this mock draft, getting in round 4 for the New York Giants, they end up taking a little bit of addition at the quarterback position with Zion McCollum, coming out of Sam Houston State. Then in round 5, pick 147, you have them going with Charleston Rambo. I think it's a really interesting one. Redshirt senior broke out last year with almost 1,200 yards on nearly 80 receptions with 7 touchdowns. And then they round out their draft at pick 6 with the P1 of the class, which is the position we all care about, Matt Ariza, the dude with the cannon for a leg out of San Diego State. Look, punters are people too. Like, we are for the brand here. Like, they want a guy who can really flip that field. punters can be absolute weapons. It's not just winning on defense and offense. Like, there's 3 phases of the football. Special teams is critical. You bring in someone like Matt Ariza, if you get in a little bit of trouble, he can flip that field for you. I know he's probably going to get overdrafted by someone. I hope so, because I'm all for it, and he deserves to be probably a higher pick.
Somewhere Ali is doing backflips right now. He has a For the Brand radar. When someone talks about Matt Ariza, he's freaking out.
It's hard not to talk about him.
Yeah, for sure, man. He's got quite a leg, that's for sure.
Well, I think it'll be a good move for them as well, considering they just cut Riley Dixon in the offseason here for them as well. So this is your New York Giants mock draft here, talking with Ian Cummings, Pro Football Network, NFL draft analyst, and college football analyst.